This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mountaineer Moment. I'm your host, Troy, and this is episode number 37 of Mountaineer Moment, a podcast covering West Virginia football and basketball. And for the very first time here on Mountaineer Moment, we have a special guest joining the show. So Joseph Smith, who is the site expert over at HailWV.com, does a tremendous job writing and editing and getting you all the Mountaineer news that your heart desires over there on HailWV.com. So make sure to go check out his work. But Joe, man, welcome to the Mountaineer Moment.
Oh, well, I don't know if I would say I do a great job. I do an all right job.
He does a great job. We've been working together for what? I'm a contributor over there for a little over a year now. So
you've been writing there for a year now, I feel like, which is great. Came over from one of the other sites under the company umbrella, wanted to specialize in some more WVU stuff, and it is very, very welcome. I love that you cover basketball and football too. A lot of people only want to write about football sometimes, so it's nice to have someone who can go at both ends.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. And I love being able to do that. So here on Mountaineer Moment, we drop several episodes a week, covering the upcoming games and then obviously recaps as well. But we're available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. So make sure whatever platform you are watching or listening on, that you hit that subscribe button so you can help us and I can help you be in the know when we have new Mountaineer coverage coming your way. So this episode, Mountaineers obviously sitting at 2-3 overall, 0-2 in conference. It has been shaky isn't even the word. It has been an abysmal start for the Mountaineers in conference play. Through 2 games, a combined score against Kansas and Utah of 89-24. The road loss at Kansas. Then obviously we know the story. Nico not good to go against Utah, doesn't play. Jalen Henderson gets the start. We go down 35-0 at home wearing the throwback uniforms. Wasn't a pretty sight in any way, shape, or form. And you lose that one 48-14. And Joe, man, things aren't getting any easier, at least on paper. You're going now on the road Friday night in Provo against a ranked BYU team, still unbeaten. They're coming off a conference win against Colorado. So this episode will really be just dedicated to, some of the news and notes coming out of, the early part of the week regarding the Mountaineers, and then a little bit of a preview for BYU. So with all that said, before we do a deep dive on BYU, how are you feeling based on where the Mountaineers are? And again, what's upcoming on Friday night? Where are you at?
Well, how I'm feeling about where the Mountaineers are is that I started this season thinking 5-7 wins is the most likely scenario. There is still a case in which you can pull off 6, I think, if you get some things right. I don't know if there's a scenario where you pull off 7. I think that 4 is fully a possibility now, maybe even 3. I don't think you go winless the rest of the way. But as you said, things are looking pretty abysmal right now. The one thing about where I'm at, though, is that you have the bye week after this. And if you can take this week especially, and we will talk about this later, it appears that Rich has given in and has decided to start exploring some different faces and some different backups on the roster. If you take this week to build on what you know so far, find out who is going to be, someone you can use going forward, and then you use the bye week to get it right, you can come out and get momentum with a win against UCF. So, there is a reset point that's just happening to come at the midway point of the season after this week. So I'm not fully selling my stock on on bowling, not fully selling my stock on Rich Rodriguez, but it has been a rough few weeks.
It has, and it's gone, I mean, obviously the calendar's turning to October by the time this one kicks off against BYU, and there's been ups and downs. That's just, I mean, Pitt, the way you come back in that game was simply electric. I mean, the highest of highs, and now 2 consecutive weeks with the lowest of lows. It's been bad, and again, not getting any easier. So this BYU team just played their first close game of the season in a road win against Colorado, 24-21. In the non-conference, picked up a win against Portland State in blowout fashion, beat Stanford of the ACC, Stanford. Always funny to say that. And then picked up the win on the road against East Carolina, 34-13. So, and now they have the Mountaineers coming to town. Obviously a few different players that stick out with them, but to me, the player that sticks out is their running back, LJ Martin, who is, I just like when numbers align like this. He's got 400 yards rushing through 4 games. So that's exactly 100 yards per game for him so far. He was limited a little bit against Colorado in that narrow victory for them, 58 yards on 15 carries. That was the first time he had not eclipsed the 100-yard mark on the season. And again, it's still kind of early in the week, but if we're going to do a little bit of a dive into BYU, whether it's what kind of challenges they present or just what you see from them, or maybe you caught some of that Colorado game, I don't know. But what are you seeing from BYU and what they bring to the table here?
So BYU is a team I cannot figure out, and I have not been able to figure out for over a year now. They were one of the top 4 teams in the league last year, and I want to say they beat, I guess you could probably say they're a top 3 team in the league last year, because it was Iowa State and Arizona State in the conference championship, right? Am I right about that? Do I remember correctly? Because Iowa State lost, went to the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yep.
Arizona State won, went to the playoff. BYU and Colorado were the other 2 top teams, and then BYU beat Colorado in a bowl game last year, right? Because they were still using the Pac-12 bowl tie-ins, and you had a Pac-12 Big 12 matchup, and they played each other. Am I remembering that? And then BYU beat them, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then BYU just beat them again, so we might know that they're a better program than Colorado. But they did well last year, but they played a lot of close games last year, and they got a lot of flack for the schedule not necessarily being tough last year. So they come back this year. They lose Jake Retzlaff, who was the quarterback behind a lot of that success. And then now they have a Bachmeier, right? Is it Bear now?
Yeah, Bear.
Bear Bachmeier. I just saw he as I understand it, and I have not watched a ton of them yet, he is more of a passer than a runner. Like, he isn't quite known for being, as mobile as some of these other quarterbacks WVU has faced. Navarro with Ohio, Jalen Daniels at Kansas, Devin Dampier last week. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be more of a true passer, but I believe I saw that he ran for 99 yards against Colorado. So you do have to, and Zach Alley has struggled with those mobile quarterbacks this year. It's one of the areas where he has, even when his team looks good, the mobile quarterbacks are giving trouble. So you're going to have to keep an eye out for that. But I think it's interesting that they bring Bachmeier in after losing Retzlaff in the offseason. And now they're 4-0 again, and they're ranked in the top 25. But they also have one of the easiest strength of schedules amongst the top 25 teams in the country this year. I believe I read that earlier today. So I don't know exactly what to make of them. They might just be for real, and I believe that Kalani Sitake is a good enough coach to have a team that's for real. But I also don't know if it's still like a strength of schedule thing, like they're getting some easy draws. I mean, East Carolina, Colorado, and Stanford. Stanford's one of the worst Power 5 teams this year. Colorado is one of the only winnable games I see on West Virginia's schedule. I am not sold on Deion Sanders as a head coach yet. East Carolina,
Yep.
I don't know how they are these days, but I mean, when you get the group of 5 opponent, you assume it's going to be a little bit easier. But I was in Peden Stadium on September 7th, so maybe I shouldn't talk to someone on a West Virginia podcast about group of 5 opponents being easier. So
September
we'll see.
6th. That was my birthday, and the Mountaineers
6th.
Did that to me.
That
was a bad birthday.
Wrong. It was a bad birthday.
It was a terrible birthday. But yeah, I mean,
bumping that night though. I'll tell you that much.
I bet. I have to do it. Funny story. So you knew because I was thinking about coming up for the Pitt game. I don't know if I told you this, but my wife and I were in Nashville the week after, so the weekend after the loss to Ohio, and we're in a coffee shop at like 9:00 at night, and I see a guy wearing an Ohio University sweatshirt, and I'm in my head, I'm like, I was just getting over this, and of course I go. I mean, he's standing right next to me. I'm like, I can't not say something, so I do. And we start talking, and I was like, yeah, you guys had a big win last weekend, and I just happen to be a Mountaineer fan. And he was like, yeah, no way. And then he says, the quarterback? I was like, yeah, I know Parker Navarro. I know what he did to us. He's like, yeah, I was his roommate last year. Crazy. So this guy, he played golf. He was on the golf team at Ohio, and he was Parker Navarro's roommate last year. In Nashville, Tennessee, of all places, I run into this guy, and he spoke very highly of Parker. So that, just knowing that off the field seems to be a kind of a good guy, so that lessened the blow a little bit. But how wild is that? I mean, I was just getting over it, and I run into this guy.
That's an absolutely crazy story.
Yeah.
When I was in Athens, because I grew up just south of Athens, about 20, 30 minutes, I went out after the game and met one of my high school friends at the bar, and then he had one of our high school classmates with him, 2 of them actually. They're married now, and the guy is just very drunk, very, very drunk, and he's like, I'm a good luck charm. I've been to like this many home games and they've never lost. And I think he was talking about Bengals games too, because he's a Bengals fan. Okay. But like, apparently he just keeps going to home games for these like college and pro teams in Ohio, and they keep winning. So,
all right.
Maybe that was the problem, is that he was in attendance that day. Maybe he owes me an apology.
Yeah, I think so.
Owes the Mountaineers an apology.
Heck yeah. Owes me an apology for my birthday too, to ruin my day. Anyway, so Bear Bogmeyer, you bring him up.
What the hell were we talking about now?
Yeah, I don't know. But this BYU quarterback, number 47, which is so funny. And yeah, you mentioned that he ran for 98 yards last week against Colorado, and I had the exact same thought process. I was like, well, Mountaineers are finally going to get a break after a few weeks, to start the season of running quarterbacks, and then this kid who passes more runs for 98 yards, and now it's like, now we got to prepare for that. So kind of interesting in that regard, but this is going to be a tough challenge. And you mentioned obviously heading into the bye week after this and Rich Rod's press conference, which I'm going to get some insider information from you on that because you happen to be in the room. But there's some potential. I want to hear you speak about that a little bit. There's some potential for some new faces. Obviously, we can talk about the quarterback situation, but do you agree with or do you feel encouraged or discouraged based on where Rich Rod was going? Like, what's kind of your thought process as you're even in the room hearing Rich Rod's points he's making here?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it insider info. They do stream those live, but
we'll call it that.
On Twitter and such and YouTube. But it is always nice to be in the room because you'll like remember some things that like other people might not pay close attention to if they're not watching it, or you read the room a little bit. Before I get too far, though, you did mention LJ Martin earlier, and I want to say I do and talked about Bachmeier a little bit. LJ Martin, I do think, is the true concern. 100. Anytime you got someone who's averaging 100 plus a game,
Yeah.
like those are over 1,000 yard rusher statistics with the schedule, 12 games in the regular season. You gotta anyone who's good enough to be 1,000 yard rusher, you got to keep an eye on. And WVU has struggled in the run game the past 2 weeks. They gave up over 240 yards, both Kansas and Utah, in the run game. So LJ Martin's going to be something to watch about. And let me segue that into the press conference, because Zach Alley did also speak today. And I was actually, what I was doing is I had your article that you wrote over at HailWV about defensive woes pulled up, and you had something on the run game with that stat in it. So I asked him about it, and he said that they haven't been getting any. They need to get off the ball more. They said they haven't. Zach Alley said they haven't been getting any knockback, is the term that he used the past couple of weeks. You know, they're getting blown off the ball, and he said he wants to be. I believe his exact words were he said we want to be in their yard chewing on their grass.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I love Zach Alley, by the way. He is great. He's a fun guy to listen to talk. He definitely, you can tell, I think, just a little bit that he was in a Dabo Sweeney program, because he has a little Dabo Sweeney in him. And it fits well on a Rich Rodriguez team too, I think. Mm-hmm. So we'll see about what happens there. But back to Rich Rodriguez, since that's the highlight of these press conferences. You know, the head coach is always who everyone wants to hear from. You asked about the quarterback situation in particular, right? Mm-hmm. So he talked about that today. Jalen Henderson and Max Brown are a little banged up, he said. Mm-hmm. And he said that they should be able to go this week, but he said that he is not, he said that they're limited, I believe was the term that he used right now. So it seems like there's going to be a focus on Scotty Fox Jr. and Khalil Wilkins this week. And boy, and maybe it's because Khalil played last week and Scotty played like half a series at the end of the fourth quarter. So Khalil's performance is on everyone's mind, and that's what was being asked about, what questions about Khalil. Mm-hmm. But it really feels like that Khalil Wilkins is going to start this week. Like he said, Khalil can make all the throws. He's also obviously a very dynamic runner. And then later in that quote, he said that he's got some big explosive ability, and that I think his upside, his future is very bright. Mm. So those were all – whoops, sorry, something on my screen there. Those were all quotes that came out of Rich Rodriguez's mouth today about Khalil Wilkins.
All right. Wow. And it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise because of how much he talked about all these quarterbacks in the offseason leading into the season, even, the fact that every game we've seen different quarterbacks. But man, yeah, I mean, that's, you and I obviously were talking yesterday. I mean, it's Tuesday night now, but yesterday we were talking about this quarterback situation and what's going to happen. And to hear again, I think the leading statement, if you can call it that, regarding Jalen Henderson and Max Brown being a little banged up, right? You kind of just said it. You put 2 and 2 together. We might have a freshman starting a quarterback on the road on Friday night against a ranked opponent. And I mean, the camp I'm in a little bit with that, at this point, kind of, all right, well, what do you got to lose? But how does that make you feel? Or even just whether it's those comments or other, things that he was talking about relating to the offensive line, or, getting new guys inserted into the lineup to see what they can do. Not sitting here saying that I think you're gonna specifically say, all right, yeah, Mountaineers are going to come out and beat BYU. But how are you feeling just about, well, this is where we've been and this is what we're walking into, and we might be walking into it with a freshman quarterback. Where's your head at right now?
I mean, there's lots of room for error, and we saw that with Scotty Fox and the backyard brawl because he looked really good, and then he threw 2 interceptions that could have cost you the game. So there's going to be some, there's definitely going to be some room for error. I say do it. Even if Jalen and Max are healthy, I say do it. Max, maybe. I haven't seen him yet. And like I talked about on a live stream we did on the HailWV social media last night, I'm very intrigued by what I saw from him in the spring with his running ability. But honestly, like Jalen, I also talked about that. I sold my stock after the spring game in my head, and I've seen absolutely zero other than one drive where he ran the ball against a Kansas defense that probably wasn't trying very hard.
Right.
If we're being honest. So like just go with it. Just run with it. And if you think Khalil is that guy after last week, like a lot of people do, then like, yeah, do it. If you're more convinced Scotty might be the guy, then do it. But like, why are we wasting time on Max Brown? Has 1 to 2 years left after this at most. I want to say he's a redshirt junior. Or I want to say redshirt junior. Yeah, I know that Jalen Henderson, I heard the boys at Ear Sports talking about how apparently he might have 1 more year left that we all didn't know about. But at most he has 1 year left, and I'm interested in like I said to you the other day, like I trust their sources. They are the most reliable at breaking news in the local media. But like I just don't understand where his extra year of eligibility is coming from right now. I'd have to look into that more. But so he's very well either done after this year or done after next year. Nico this year and next year.
Right.
Scotty Fox and Khalil Wilkins. Khalil will be here at least through next year because he'll only be a redshirt sophomore, and you have to play 3 years before going pro. And it's possible he comes out, dazzles everyone, and is ready to go to the NFL, but I don't foresee that happening. So, like, you assume you're going to have him 2 more years after this, probably, if you can retain him, if you can. And Scotty Fox is a true freshman, so he's going to be here at least 2 years after this if you can retain him.
Right.
So, like, if one of these you have more time with these guys, and if you're rich, you're assuming that things are going to go well enough that you at least get through the 2 more years on the contract after this. Like, if you get fired at the end of year 2, then something went horribly wrong, and you are not planning for that in your head. So why not start developing the guy that you're going to need to really be successful by the final year of that contract now by throwing them in the fire and letting them get it done. And there's no better place to learn on the fly than Provo, Utah on a Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, 8:30 Mountain time. That place is going to be rocking. It's going to be loud. Might as well do it. He might make mistakes. Figure it out during the bye week. Most of us didn't expect you to beat BYU anyway.
Right.
And if you do, then it's a pleasant surprise.
That's exactly right.
Was able to do that.
That's exactly right. And, again, and Rich Rod is, at least in press conferences that I've seen, particularly in the off season, or in camp, speaking of, we're not just going to yank guys out after a mistake. Now, Scotty Fox, he needed to yank out in that pit game. I get that, but like
2 mistakes, though. Really costly ones.
Those were big. Those were big, but yeah, I mean, all of this whole offense, with how poor this offense has looked from top to bottom all season long. I agree. Like, why not? Why not give one of these young guys a chance? Because the veteran guys aren't doing it either. They're not playing well enough to win, especially as you start Big 12 conference play. Like, it's been that bad. And, you know, something else can be said for that as well. Like, all of these quarterbacks, whoever it is, whoever's going to start, whoever's going to play against BYU, like, the cards are stacked against them quite a bit based on what's going on around them, right? With the injuries around them at the skill positions. We still don't anything on Ty Edwards, his status, or is just kind of still up in the air?
We have our first player availability report that just came out. Like, we're recording this late on Tuesday night, so it just came out like,
let me guess,
30 minutes
questionable.
before we started this. How did you know that Ty Edwards was going to be listed as questionable
Oh, man.
on the player availability report? Because it's what he's been every day for the past 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure. I think he might have been doubtful the first day, and then it's just been questionable ever since. And that's something we didn't talk about on that last HailWV video we did. Rich seemed mad about it a bit, honestly, after the game on Saturday. You know, like, they asked him about it and he gave a very muted, quiet, almost whisper, like he's not ready to go type of response, and then moved on to the next question.
Yeah.
And you remember, like, against Kansas, he was like, well, we were, you know, he dressed, we thought he was going to be able to go, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
And,
It's
like,
odd.
maybe it's one of those things where it's like, really is like it takes longer than you would expect, but, like, you could be able to go at any time, so you just have to monitor it, and it's just taking longer than Rich had, because he said it on his show the other night. He was talking about people, you know, not necessarily being patient, and he said, I understand it better. I understand it because you can ask my family. No one's more impatient than I am. He said, so maybe he's just impatient about it, but, like, he seems like he's fed up with this too, this whole questionable everyday thing,
Yeah.
and then not playing.
Interesting.
Do you want to know who else is on the injury report?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, let's turn this brightness down because the glare is really coming off my glasses. Out are the people that we already knew about: Jaheim White, Jaden Bray, and Nico Markiol. And then Julian Horton and Cooper Young, a safety and offensive lineman, respectively, who were pretty far down on the they're young. They're not people were expecting to play, but they've been out on every one of these two. They might be out for the season. I don't think anyone really knows. Doubtful is defensive lineman Devin Grant, and if any of y'all who were watching the game probably saw him go down and stay down for a good bit in the second half, like flat down, not moving, to the point where I was starting to get worried about a serious spinal cord injury of some sort. But then they got him, he moved, and then they picked him up and he walked off the field, I want to say, with some help. So, like, it must not have been as serious as it looked at the moment, because it was very much like he was down and not moving an inch, and they were, like, being very careful about, like, not taking his helmet off. And it was, like, going on for an extended period of time, but he's doubtful, so I'm guessing it's a bad injury, but not as bad as it looked. And then our questionable list is Ty Edwards. Wide receiver Oren Singleton has joined the questionable list right now. I don't know what's going on there. As I alluded to earlier, when Rich Rod said today that Jalen Henderson and Max Brown are a little banged up and limited, they are both questionable right now. Joining them is offensive lineman Kimo Makaneole, who Rich did say last Monday was banged up, but he didn't appear on the injury reports at all. Then he started, but got pulled out halfway through the first half in favor of Donovan Haslam. And then after the game, Rich said that he got hurt, and that's why the change was made. Speaking of Donovan Haslam and Malik Agbo, let us talk about that, because it was flat out said today. He said Malik Agbo is going to play more. Donovan Haslam is going to play more.
Yeah.
Like, these were definitive statements that were made. This isn't more just like poking and prodding at, like, oh, well, he looked good, and like, we're going to try to get them more opportunities here or there. Is like Malik. He said Malik's been really impressive, and he's going to play more. Donovan Haslam, he's a big presence in there. He's going to play more.
Yeah.
I asked him about Carson Lee. He didn't necessarily say Carson was going to play more, but he said, I believe the words were that Carson did all right, and then he said that he pulled off some of like the snaps and a couple of the pulls that he was asked to do really well, and that he had a lot of composure, and that he can play both three positions, because he can play both guards and he can play center, which indicates to me that if you want to maybe, I don't see Landon Livingston on this injury reports that he's back, I'm guessing, if he's not on this.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep.
So, but if you want to start Landon again at center because he was one of your highest graded offensive linemen, but say you're not completely impressed with both Chemo and Walter Youngbear, then maybe you slide Carson Lee over to a guard.
Certainly.
Maybe Josh Izosa or gets a look too, because he played 14 snaps against Utah in the second half. So that may but I think it'll be interesting to see what goes there. If it was me, and we talked about this too the other night, I'm going Malik and Nick Cray at the tackles, Donovan and Carson at the guards, and Landon Livingston at the center.
Yeah. Well, and I'm all for that. Like, I really am, because it's it's been bad. Like, it's just been that bad. And that's you can say all this about quarterbacks, about the health of the running backs, about the health of the wide receivers, but this offensive line has just simply not performed well in pass blocking, in run blocking. It's been bad. And so it's time to mix things up. And I'm encouraged by even hearing, even Rich's tone through you just now, as far as, what he's saying about some of these guys, about not just a casual, yeah, they're looking good. They're getting better every day. No, it's like they're going to play more, and they've earned it. And so that's a welcome sign. Now, again, some of these guys might be getting reps in, or more reps, or the most reps they've gotten so far this season on the road against BYU, against a ranked team. So that creates a challenge in itself. But if we do, again, with the quarterbacks, with that whole dynamic, with that situation, the one thing I will, kind of add again is cards have been stacked against whoever's out there. And so we got to take even criticism and all of these comments that we might make with these quarterbacks and what they can do, what they can't do, what they haven't done, with a grain of salt a little bit, knowing what they're being thrown into. And so whether that's Khalil Wilkins this week, if he gets to start and he plays every down and Mountaineers get blown out and he just doesn't look that good, you got to keep in mind what's going on around him that isn't looking that good either. And so just kind of keep that in mind too. If you're watching and listening and getting ready for game day, just keep in mind it's bigger than just a quarterback situation. It's bigger than just, all right, swap out the quarterback and everything's going to be fine, because we've seen that. Rich has tried a lot of different quarterbacks, small sample size for some of them, but it ain't fixing anything when he's done it. So, and even Khalil Wilkins and what he did in the second half against Utah, like, take that with a grain of salt because of what the score was at that point. You're down big time, and then he made some plays, which was encouraging to see. But anyway, BYU, the most research I've done with them has been in their one conference game against Colorado. Caden Salter, the former Liberty quarterback, shout out to my alma mater there. Caden Salter, 11 for 16, 119 yards, a touchdown and a pick against BYU. And Colorado rushing attack, 37 carries, 172 yards, and 2 touchdowns for over 4.5 yards a carry. So that's what Colorado's offense was able to do against this BYU defense. Again, spoke about the BYU rushing attack last week with LJ Martin, 58 yards, but Bear himself had 98 yards on the ground. Team total, 208 yards on 5.8 yards a carry. And Bachmeyer, 19 of 27, 179 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. With that said,
honestly, here's something too. Let me pull this up because I have somewhere in my email game notes for this week, and it compares these two teams statistically. So I'm going to pull those up. You went to Liberty, by the way?
I did.
So I have a fun story about Liberty.
Let's hear it.
I went to Otterson Broadus in West Virginia, Division II school, in my junior and senior year. I started as a football athlete, but my junior and senior year, I was a track and field athlete. And we went to a track and field meet at Liberty on their brand new, nice indoor track. And they told us, they said, okay, guys, now you've got to be on your best behavior here, and you can't be walking around cussing and stuff like that because they're going to disqualify you. And they actually took it pretty seriously. I saw an official, kind of shush someone and give them a warning for letting the cuss word out. And I'm like, cool.
Really?
Cool. Yeah. So they they thought that was fun. That was just a funny story because it's not the only place that ever happened to us at either, because we competed against a Division II school called Cedarville in the same conference at the same time over in Ohio. And they were similar over there too, because they are a very religious school. So, but those are always funny stories to share.
That is funny.
The time we couldn't cuss at track meets because the school would disqualify us from our events.
Sounds about right. Sounds on par. Yeah, Liberty's having a tough season this year. Obviously, their football program's done some pretty good things last few years, but not so much this season. And yeah, Caden Salter, who's about 5'7", 5'8", is Colorado's quarterback this year, sitting at 2-3 and 0-2 in conference play. But yeah, what sticks out statistically with these two teams here?
Well, give me one more second trying to get her pulled up here.
Yeah.
Jeez. Why is this? Okay. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere, I think. It takes a minute sometimes to get your computer to play along. But she's coming with me.
There we go.
Picking herself up, and she's getting in gear. And in a second, I will have some statistics, because I remember I was looking for them, and I didn't take a chance to truly actually sit and pour over them or anything yet. But it was definitely a thing where I was like, okay, I ought to take a look and dive into those a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, if you have anything else you want to highlight, go on, because they're still taking a minute.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think the not that I'm, it's not like a keys to victory kind of thing or anything like that, but as far as some of the concern that I have, and it's been expressed on this podcast several times, especially as we've entered into conference play, is the West Virginia defense against the run. Because again, now you've got LJ Martin, who's averaged 100 yards. You got Bear, who carried it 15 times for nearly 100 yards last week against Colorado. You got to, they ran it for almost 6 yards a carry, and they've been getting it done through the air as well. So West Virginia's defense, especially against Utah, they've gotten punched in the mouth, to put it plainly. And there's definitely concerns about what they're going to come out looking like on the road against BYU. So that's a concern. And then I think perhaps, especially if the case is that we're going to go with Khalil Wilkins or Scotty Fox, either to start this game or throughout the game, West Virginia, if you want to keep this one close, if you want to somehow stay in it more than you've done the last 2 weeks, you have to get the running game going, especially with a freshman quarterback. So Ty Edwards would be massive to get him back. We'll see if that happens. We've talked about that. He's questionable. But even not like Colorado's running game was non-existent. They carried it 37 times, 172 yards, and they found the end zone twice on the ground. So that's a team that's similar to us, again, record-wise, 0-2 in conference, and they were able to have at least some success on the ground. And if the Mountaineers want to have any success in this game, they're going to have to get the ball going, moving on the ground, and turning first downs, which they haven't been able to do so far in the non-conference or in conference play, enough to make a difference for them. So that's something I'm going to have my eye on, is the West Virginia rushing attack.
Okay, so stats in front of me. Bad news is that they have the 4th best scoring defense and the 7th best total defense in the country. And we do not move the ball well.
No, we don't.
So they also have a really good run defense. Their rushing defense is 8th in the country, and most of our yards come from running the ball. We average over 200 a game on the ground. So it just might not be. That's another thing. It just might not be a good matchup for WVU.
Yep.
And I don't know. You better hope that Khalil Wilkins and Cam Vaughn have a legacy game. Who knows? We'll see.
It might need it. Is there any good news? Anything that jumps out statistically? You're like, well, Mountaineers could try to exploit this.
That's what I'm looking to see right now.
But yeah, those things that you just said are not good, and I think it's all the more important on the road, especially with a freshman quarterback, that you got to establish a run. You got to get some first downs. And frankly, we have not seen that the last 2 weeks. And so there's not really a great reason to believe that that's going to happen. But here we are.
The only thing they're really explicitly bad at is their passing offense is not good. It's 103rd in the country. Right. But our passing defense is 69th in the country, so it's not as, once again, we are not talking about Jordan Leslie levels of defense. If we were, I think